Now, you mentioned it earlier on, but obviously the market is changing, and you're behind the new Carhuna platform. What was the sort of motivating, what made you do it in the first place?
Well, during COVID, I'm lucky that my sales team, I always call it a second generation business now, and my sales team's quite young, so I'm the oldest at 39.
Poor.
And
How does that look at us? We're like the oldies.
I'm granddad and grandma, no?
Lots of experience, though. The guys were willing to put the hours in during COVID, and actually lockdown was fantastic because we're really close to London here, but our roads were deserted, so we could do amazing photography. We worked late all the time. It was kind of, we were in our bubble, and we even built a bar at the office so that everyone could actually have a couple of beers after work and, relax. And at that time, we saw that some of the other platforms were getting really popular. And especially in the last 2 years, I've noticed that other dealers have been putting cars on there, but it didn't feel like it was sitting right, that they were putting cars on there, but it was anonymous, but it wasn't anonymous, and they'd send a bulk email out, but then, if someone stumbled across the listing, it was just a username. And I thought, well, I'd like to auction some cars because I can see it's a really good way for a client to price discover, as we call it, or the price discovery process is really good. You're in a room virtually with all the guys, and you're interested in the car, and everyone pays as much as they want to.
A willing buyer and a willing seller, and you find
and that's
that
it.
natural
And you find that
point,
balance. And for years, one of our showrooms, which is our Prestige showroom, you'll get a car on consignment, you try and be very aggressive with the pricing, and it just sits there for 3 months because everyone that phones up or comes in to see it says, oh, it's really well priced, what's wrong with it? Or is it cheap enough? Whereas the auction arena gives you that opportunity, but our website doesn't have enough traffic or through flow for us to make the most of it. So I suddenly thought, well, the best way for us to deal with this is for all of us dealers to get together, have a new platform that also bolts on classifieds, because I couldn't understand why you have to be one or the other. Do both.
Yeah.
I do sales and storage. I don't do just sales and just storage.
Yeah.
So why can't you have classifieds alongside auctions? And give everyone the opportunity to, create a listing under their own banner. And we spent so much money on the technology so that the dealers have control of their accounts. So they create their listings, they dictate when the auction starts, they dictate what their reserve is, and it's in their hands. So it's no longer, I've bought this car and I'm not happy with it, I'm going to talk to the platform. It's, I've bought it from this dealer, and if there is an issue, you talk to the dealer, and the dealer will give you great service, because we've all got reputations to protect, we've all got standards that we adhere to, that we've developed, that we make sure that we, the hurdles we jump over when we're preparing cars to sell. And so that's the whole point of it. So on the flip side, not only have the dealers got the opportunity to now take advantage of the auction environment, but the private buyers that are buying online know who they're buying from. And that gives so many more benefits, like being able to say, hey, I'm really interested in this car, but it's 100,000, I don't have 100,000. Would you consider my part exchange? Or even better, can you prepare a finance quote for me in advance? Here are my terms. This is the deposit I want to pay. This is the structure I want. Online, who are you going to do that with? If it's a private seller, you don't accept an invoice from a private seller. It needs to be via a dealer. So
we do actually.
Well, in general though.
In general, there's a lot more risk attached to private sellers. I mean, there's title issues, there's MQ issues. So we have to do ourselves a lot more validation. It's a lot harder
when it's private.
Yeah, I prefer every day of the week from a quality.
And these
quality
cars
dealer.
are such high value. Why take the risk? As
so
a buyer,
do you see
as a seller.
Things like Carhuna working at certain price points within the market, or do you see it being
ultimately, I think
top to bottom?
I think it will be top to bottom. Our target market right now is we're starting with the atmosphere that we know and understand, and the dealers that are that we've worked
Well, actually,
with.
this is the not the issue. It's a challenge really with other auction platforms online. It's private individuals listing their cars through an auction process, and actually. The majority of the finance market don't offer private vendor sale, and that's an issue when you're trying to get funding to buy those cars. And also, as a finance company, again, validating title, provenance, and municipal quality, it's very hard.
Yeah.
So in Carhuna, it's much more from my perspective, it'd be much more palatable.
And
exactly
transparent.
And transparent.
Transparent is like this whole sort of private messaging thing that you have to do traditionally. And I think the other platforms do a great job, by the way. I think if you're a private seller
they're different markets.
who doesn't want to deal with a dealer,
totally different markets.
Fantastic. They're really good. They do the work for you. They do the write-ups. They list it for you. They suggest what reserve you should have. But as a dealer, I can do all of that myself. I don't need a helping hand. I just need the platform to do it on, whereby there are going to be lots of people looking at all the different things. And then when they click on the particular lot they're interested in, bang, it pops up.
Yeah.
And it's under the banner of who you're buying from. And you can pick the phone up. You can go and look at the car with ease. It makes it a lot easier. And I think there's probably been a bit of a thinking that you've got to keep the seller secret and the buyer secret until the end because they might try and swerve. But the whole point of the auction is that you'll get the most money or in that environment, you'll get the most money you can because all of the buyers are in one room at the same time.
If you're buying a very expensive car, would you want to go and buy from a private individual if you're not in the trade and you can?
Unless you knew
I mean,
the car
obviously you do because
particularly,
you buy from.
But it comes. But that's always the nightmare.
Yeah, that's the nightmare.
You buy a
right?
car, and it arrives, and you say, "Where's the service book?"
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, I never got it from when I bought it.
Well, yeah.
Sorry." If I did that, then it's like we've got to sort it out. Where's the spare key? That's the one that happens all the time.
Always.
Where's the spare key? We've got to provide a spare key.
Try repossessing the cars. You come with no keys.
Okay. Hopefully not.
You've also very recently been appointed the executive agents for the McMurtry Spearling. Now that's a game-changing car in the market. Where do you see those sorts of cars being positioned? Because I mean, that to me is niche times 10.
Yeah, I've seen it in the Middle East. They have these evening track days where they just go and get their hypercar and go flat out and have a great time. So I've always thought that race cars are going to go in that direction. The McMurtry, it's not so much about being green. It's about utilising technology and electricity and just doing something that's utterly bonkers. And to this point in time, no one outside of McMurtry really understands how that thing works because they've got a really advanced skirt system that they haven't let anyone see. And it doesn't wear out quickly and it creates, 2 tons of downforce at standstill. 24,000 RPM on the downforce. Yeah. I mean, we went to Mirror a few weeks ago to go and do some client demonstrations, and the thing's bonkers to the point where I was actually a bit apprehensive about having a go, and I didn't have a go in the end. I was a bit like, I might embarrass myself. I might not be able to handle this.
That's what I said to you, isn't it?
Yeah, you
did.
It
actually, I mean,
if you can't handle it,
exactly.
No chance
I mean, it
for
kind
me.
of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
Like the thing is bonkers. But Thomas Yates, the designer and MD, he believes that this is a Concord moment in the automotive world, and what they've
it's certainly the
developed
point I think at which it's going to.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to listen to him about who's approached him and who's talking to him about the technology. And I don't think we can see where it's going, but I think in 10 years' time we will be like, that's where it started. I think the electric car thing per se is a bit of a joke, and I said that quite vocally 5 years ago, and a lot of people said,
going to just about ask you that. So.
Yeah, a lot of people said to me at the time, that's brave, but I really didn't believe that it was sustainable, in terms of the life of these cars. And I was talking to someone yesterday about their son's first car, and it's a 7 or 8 year old Polo, and it looks brand new. In 2002, I had a 94 Polo, and all my friends at school were like, that is an old banger. And it was like 300 quid's worth, and it was awful. And it wasn't that old. But today, you look at a 20-year-old car, and they look almost new. Look at a 51 plate Polo. It doesn't look dated.
No.
It doesn't look old.
I had a Fiat 127.
Yeah.
That was my first, and that really was a banger.
Yeah. But that was what it was all about. I think I was just, because my brothers were older, it was like they really had bangers, and so I had to have a banger. But today you just don't see that.
No.
Everyone had Beetles and stuff like that. You don't see people in older cars.
No.
But they weren't actually that old at the time.
I had a white XR2. I think I was living it up.
Yeah,
you were.
I was 17 years old in a white XR2.
How do you insure it?
I think I was named driver on
Dad's policy.
Company policy or something.
It's always the way, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't believe in the electric car thing. I think that so many people buy these cars because of the tax benefit, and not really because they believe that they're green, and the mining and the raw materials, and what do you do with the battery when it's defunct pretty soon. Whereas all these cars, my point to the Polos was that these cars will last for 20 years with ease.
Keep going, yeah.
That's sustainability, and we've been saving cars from the grave for 45 years plus, and have saved some wonderful cars. And in terms of carbon footprint, these are doing brilliantly, aren't they?